It is a good day to be a global glazer. All jokes aside, Sega released a very long letter talking about a lot of the player feedback and concerns within P5X Global. And of course, I'm not going to make you read all that, so I'm going to read it for you. I'll be going over all the important parts, and I'll be summarizing all of it for you, and explaining it for all of you who are struggling to understand some key information in this letter. And trust me, it's all pretty important, and it's all pretty big. And if I help you out, consider subscribing and liking the video, because it helps the channel out a ton, and it helps me keep making videos just like this one. So let's get right into it. Sega starts off very strong, addressing the 110 banner that I know a lot of players have been waiting for on Global. Sega talks about the current banner system we have, which is the one where you go to 80 pity. You have a 50-50% chance of getting the limited 5-star character featured on banner, or a random standard character from the standard pool. We're all familiar with that banner, I don't think I need to read this out. And then they go on to explain the new contract system, which is the 110 banner. If you didn't obtain a 5-star from the previous 109 draws, the next draw guarantees a 5-star. The difference is, the 5-star you obtain is guaranteed to be the most wanted 5-star. Let's say you're pulling on Queen's banner, and it's the 110 banner. You use 109 of your draws, your next draw is 100% of the time going to be Queen. It will be the limited 5-star character. Please note that some contracts, like the newcomer contracts and Arms Deal, have different systems. In the Chinese Asia versions, this contract was implemented 6 months after the release. For Japanese/Western versions, we are currently making adjustments in order to release it earlier. So for all of you players that have been waiting on the 110 banner and keep asking me about it, it's coming earlier. How much earlier? Not exactly sure. I don't have an exact date. I don't see an exact date here. Just know that we're getting it earlier than the CN and Asia versions of the game did. After the release of this new contract system, the current contract system will also continue to be made available. However, please note that the number of draws into the guaranteed 5-star is counted separately between the two contract systems. The two contract systems have differing rates and draw counts, so please check the details once it's implemented, and pick the one that best fits your own playstyle. Please wait for further announcements for the details at implementation period. So basically what this means is that if you're someone who likes to gamble, if you're feeling lucky, the 80 banner is still going to be there, the 50-50 banner is still going to be there. So you now as a player have a choice if you want to gamble with the banner that we already have, or if you want to go to the 110 banner and guarantee that character at 110 pulls. Now, I do believe that on the TW versions of the game, the 110 banner has a lower standard pity, and I'm guessing that's going to be the same for this. So you won't be getting earlies as much on the 110 banner as you will on the 80 banner, statistically. So that is something to keep in mind if you're pulling on the 110 banner. You're going to be going to 110 a lot, but you are guaranteed the 5-star character when you get there. So of course, make your own decision, and like Sega said, choose the one that best fits your own playstyle. They then go on to talk about Minami's Cognate and 5-star weapon, which is Marian and something else that they had a lot of controversy over. Sega says, in the Chinese Asia versions, players were able to obtain Minami's Cognate and 5-star weapon from Lufels Business Plan 3 and 4 respectively. In the Japanese/Western versions, Plan 3 and 4 were implemented earlier compared to the Chinese Asia versions. In the Chinese/Asia versions, Minami was already available in the gold ticket contracts when 3 and 4 were implemented. As a result, there is a difference in the rewards for Plans 3 and 4 between the two versions. We are very sorry for this inconvenience. For the Western, Japanese versions, we plan to provide a new method for players to obtain the Cognate and weapon. We are preparing a special campaign that will also benefit those who obtain duplicates of Minami and her weapon. The details for this campaign will be in the latter half of this letter. Basically what this means is that they have heard and they are listening to our complaints about Marian's 5-star weapon and her Cognate not being in Plan 3 and 4. Because this was a huge loss for global players, but then they continue to say that they're going to implement a new way for us to obtain this. And I have already read this whole letter, so trust me when I get to this part, you're going to be happy. But before that, Sega did address the 6-month standard banner wait, and this is probably the only piece of bad news on this letter. We have received a lot of feedback and requests regarding the addition of new characters to the Phantom Idol Draft X, which uses gold tickets. In the Chinese Asia versions, some 5-star Phantom Idols, including the ones listed below, were added to the Phantom Idol Draft X immediately after their most wanted period, the Phantom Idol Draft X being the standard gold ticket banner. In Japanese Western versions, we plan to add them roughly 6 months after their initial release. Among the characters that appear in the game up to version 1.4, the Phantom Idols that will be added to Phantom Idol Draft X are as follows: Minami and Yumi, Marian and Phoebe, respectively. Each character's 5-star weapon will also be added to the Arms Deal at the same time. Basically, what this means is that Sega is standing their ground and they are doubling down on the 6-month wait time for standard banner characters, which is surprising because this is the one thing I actually thought they'd go back on out of everything. I wasn't expecting anything else from Sega. All I was expecting was them to say that they're going to add standard banner characters a little earlier, I wasn't expecting a way to obtain a cognate, a weapon or anything. I was just expecting them to pull back on this. This is a very weird one for them to stand their grounds on, I will admit, but it is also the only bad news in this letter. So I'm sorry for all of you who expected them to pull back on this change. It doesn't look like it's happened. Moving on from that, Sega addresses the speed up, which some players are finding it difficult to keep up with the sheer amount of updates and content coming out at a rapid pace, and they're finding trouble in saving up. We received feedback saying that due to the speed of updates, it is difficult for players to save up contracts, currency, such as tickets and coins. We have prepared multiple avenues for players to obtain contracts, currency, tickets, and coins, such as login rewards and by playing through the content. We plan to release a large-scale update with version 2.0 in September, which is the next palace. To celebrate this update, players will be able to obtain 20 platinum tickets and 20 platinum millicoins through the login bonus. And this, for all of you global haters, you can't tell me that this isn't generous. Basically, I'm sure you all know what this means, but this means you're getting 20 free limited character pulls just from logging in and 20 limited free weapon pulls just from logging in. We are planning to hold many other campaigns as well. The details are also in the latter half of this letter and will be announced at a later date. The next thing Sega talks about, and is something that I'm not going to read too thoroughly, is them talking about the differences between item offerings available in the shop. For those of you unaware, what this refers to is when you go to the shop, if you are a paid player and you go to things like goods, you have all of these training sets and things like that. Some of these vary in contents from the global versions of the game to the CN and Asia versions of the game. And some players were wondering why. Sega goes on to say, in the Japanese/Western versions, some items that were offered in the shop were changed. These changes were made to comply with platform regulations as well as the laws in Japan and the countries of the Western region. We also plan to offer new items for the Japanese Western versions to replace the items that cannot be sold. Although it is difficult to have item offerings be exactly the same, we will do our best to make sure that the overall value of the items is as close as possible. I do believe Sega's done a good job of this thus far, and obviously they said they do this to comply with the laws, so there's not much they can do about it. Moving on to the next part of the letter. They talk about new and upcoming features, and I know this is what most of you have been waiting for. We are currently working on a feature where players can obtain various items by dispatching characters of their choosing. Through tasks, the name not being final, players can obtain a special item once a week called Thief's Cognate Shard. Players can exchange 60 of this item for a cognate that can be used to increase the awareness level of a character. We plan to release this feature in version 2.0. So this is a feature that's already available on the other versions of the game, but they did add a little something new to it, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this letter. But for all of you unaware of what tasks are, it's basically the dispatch system in this game for anyone who's played other gachas, like in Genshin. The difference is the version of this in P5X isn't absolute garbage and actually gives you things that are worth sending out characters on tasks for. They then go on to talk about an expansion to Lufels Business Plan exclusively for global versions. We plan to add an expansion to Lufels Business Plan and a brand new feature for the Japanese Western versions. The rewards for this feature will make it easier for players to forge their 5-star weapons and can be obtained through daily play. We will announce when this feature will be added at a later date. Not many details to this just yet, but I don't think anyone is complaining about an updated Lufels Plan. We'll have to see what exactly the rewards are for this, but this is obviously great news. Thief's Cognate Shard. By gathering 60 of this rare item, players can exchange it for a cognate that can be used to awaken the awareness of characters, which is what we were talking about above in the tasks section. But here's the part that makes it different for us in comparison to the Chinese Asia versions, and honestly a lot better. In the Chinese Asia versions, the Thief's Cognate Shards can be used to awaken characters that are in the gold ticket contracts. In the Japanese Western versions, this feature will also extend to other 5-star characters like Ren, Yui, Yusuke, Makoto. I skipped over Minami and Yumi because those are obviously standard characters, so they're not what we're focusing on here. What we're focusing on here is the fact that we can now use these to awaken characters like Joker, Bowie, Fox, and Queen. That is huge. For players like myself who have an A0 Queen, and we all know A1 Queen is really strong, and we are fans of Queen but we don't want to pull the A1, this is huge. You will have it at some point if you choose to. In version 2.0, some of the characters above will be available for exchange. Details will be announced at a later date. This item can be obtained from the tasks feature that will be released in version 2.0. So we're getting this as well in version 2.0, and I honestly can't be more excited. They then go on to talk about what they were talking about earlier with a new way to obtain Marian's Cognate and her 5-star weapon. For those of you unaware, Marian's 5-star weapon is really, really good. And it's a weapon that you want to have on your account, but we weren't going to have it for quite some time with it not being added to standard for 6 months. So, what Sega says is, this is the previously mentioned campaign where players can obtain Minami's Cognate and 5-star weapon. Around mid to late September, we plan to hold a special campaign exclusive to the Japanese Western versions where players can obtain Thief's Cognate Shards and a 5-star weapon. In this campaign, players will have the opportunity to obtain 60 Thief Cognate Shards that can be obtained for the Cognate of one of the available 5-star characters. Following that, we also plan to hold a gift campaign where players can select one 5-star weapon to obtain. The selection lineup also will include Marian's 5-star weapon. Other weapons included in the lineup will be announced later. The details and timing of the campaigns will also be announced at a later date. We hope we can make full use of this opportunity to obtain these very high value items. And trust me, these are very high value items. For those of you who have an A0 copy of Marian, this is huge because Marian's A1 is great and her weapon is great. Sadly, for those of you who don't have this character ready, it does say that it will be a Cognate specifically. So if you don't have the character, you can't use a Cognate to obtain the character. It's only usable as an awareness. But for those of you who do have the character at A0, and especially for those of you who don't have the weapon, this is huge news. And there will be something in this update for everyone because it does say that you can obtain for the Cognate of one of the available 5-star characters. And it also says the other weapons included in the lineup will be announced later. So there will be more characters that you can get awarenesses for in this, and there will be more weapons included in it. So this is something to look forward to for everyone. And then Sega goes on to give their closing words. I'm not going to read this all to you. If you would like to read it, I'll leave a link to this in the description that you can click on and go read their closing words yourself. But it basically just goes to them talking about how they want to continue to make improvements following the feedback of their players. And they go on to promote their social medias. Sega really is no better than us content creators. So yeah, huge news for all global players. I personally am really excited. I'm curious what you guys all think about this update letter. So please, I'd love if you can comment on the video and tell me what you think because I'd love to discuss it with you. If I did help you out, please consider liking the video and subscribing because it helps the video a ton. That's going to be all from me. I'm out. Peace.